The meeting to order. It is Tuesday, September 3rd. We are meeting here for a regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. Apologize for the delay. We got delayed a little bit in executive session. I would ask that you all rise and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Clerk Spencer, calling this meeting to order, please call a roll to establish a quorum.
Gutenkopf. Here. Loiter.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Polumsky.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Hipskin. Hipskin.
Here.
York.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Honquist.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
14 present, 0 absent.
Very good. 14 present, 0 absent. We have a quorum. On to agenda item number 3, receipt of written communication from the public. At this time, is there anybody in the audience who has written communication that they would like to convey to the City Council? If so, please come. Mr. Paravola, if you want to bring what you have and give it to Clerk Spencer, that'd be great. Thank you, Tom. Is there anybody else in the audience who has any written communication that they would like to submit at this time? If so, I'd ask you to approach Clerk Spencer. Seeing none, we'll move on to public forum. This is an opportunity at this point in the meeting for anyone in the public to address any concerns or issues that they may have. We ask that you identify yourself and your address when you do approach the microphone. We also ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes out of respect for the folks behind you who may want to talk, and also so that we can continue to conduct our meeting. Clerk Spencer, do we have anybody signed up for public forum at this time?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have 3 that have signed in tonight, and I'll start with Claude Pagash, 566 West Gladys.
Great. Mr. Pagash, I think you know the routine. If you could approach the microphone.
My name is Claude Pagash. I live at 566 West Gladys. At the last council meeting, we voted in for a contractor to dig in manholes in backyards. Interesting, isn't it? Statement that maybe one day we'll have to have people have retention in their backyard. Well, you see, I'd like to ask all the council members to take a Saturday or a Sunday morning and drive around this town and take a look at what is being built in this town. I think what you really wanted to do was say that you would like to put in floor drains and pebble gardens, because that's all that's left. The one failure of this body is that, number one, maybe you didn't, but at one time, the building code was voted on by this city, by the aldermen. The elevation of the foundation is determined by the city. And let alone the responsibility for problems with flooding fall to the homeowner. He just bought the place. But I heard nothing about water retention under major parking lots. Homeowner, he's responsible. He's going to get manholes. He's going to retain water, and that's his fault. Another thing that came up was this so-called project at the treatment plant. Amazing, isn't it? We hire engineers, give them parameters, come up with a cost of $6.5 million with $1 million of retention. Man, I'll tell you, I put up a lot of buildings in my lifetime, and under those conditions, I'd be as happy as a lark. But wouldn't you know it, we got to change of plans. Now we're going to have $2 million worth of retention, and a project that was supposed to cost $6.5 million is now going to cost 1/3 more. Why in this town can't we just get a project that doesn't continually cost us more and more? And one other thing, I must have fallen asleep. You know, I come to these meetings and I'm tired. But somewhere along the line, this council voted the authorization to the city manager to use our city staff to go out for grants for a tunnel. And he's got money in the new budget to do preliminary drawings. Now, can somebody just nod their head that this council did give him the right to do that? Or has this whole situation of government in this town turned upside down? I don't want the tunnel. I don't remember anybody authorizing him to do it, and he's spending our money with public staff going out for grants and going to come up with preliminary drawings for a tunnel that nobody needs or wants. When is this council going to act as a government body and not just all sit there dumb, deaf, and blind to what is taking place in the town and to the people that supposedly they represent?
Mr.
And
Prakash,
when will they represent them?
If you could wrap up, you're over your 3 minutes.
Next, Tamara Brenner, 137 North Caroline Avenue.
Tamara Brenner, 137 North Caroline. So I see we have a full attendance tonight, which means that when we get to the ordinance section here about putting a stop sign, four-way stop sign on Chandler and Adelia, we're going to see an 8-6 vote based on what happened at the last council meeting. Although this isn't in my neighborhood, I'm finding myself pretty disturbed by what I've seen over the 3.5+ years that I've been coming regularly to city council, which is that stop sign installations keep happening contrary to the recommendations of city engineering staff, contrary to the MUTCD Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And we're about to do the same thing again tonight. There's no indication, according to these guidelines, to put the stop sign in, but you're going to do it anyway. Every intersection that comes up seems to be exceptional, which I guess is kind of like 80% of drivers thinking that they're above average. There's always a reason to overrule the rule book. And it seems to me that we're not doing fact-based legislating here. I'd like to see more fact-based legislating and less favor-based legislating, which is what I think is happening. This action, this time, has really caused me as an individual to question in my own neighborhood, why are all these stop signs here? Did these stop signs go in under similar circumstances? Were people thinking clearly then, or were they overruling the rule book then? My behavior towards stop signs has changed. I'm still a careful driver, but I might not do a complete stop anymore when there's no other traffic around. So I guess officer friendly, I shouldn't have said that while you're sitting here, but I did. You know where I live too. So I would like to see the stop sign not be voted in because it's contrary to all the guidelines you guys should be following. One other thing I want to comment on tonight's agenda is the tax increment financing incentive policy. Probably the sales tax one too, although I didn't look at the specific wording, but the meetings on that I did attend, they were kind of going in similar directions. There are some good things in there, but the committee has studiously left out one thing which I think they should put in there, which is if a project happens to do better than anticipated financially, there should be some cost sharing with the city since they're helping out. And the rules that are being laid out here call for just as determined without laying down even a baseline. Once again, the taxpayers is left without having a safety net, and the benefits all go to the developer. And this is a continued item that I see where I'm going to get it backwards, where the gains are privatized and the costs are socialized. And I really would like to see something in those policies that provides if extra monies happen to accrue to the developer as a result of TIF money, that the city definitely shares in that, not maybe if we feel like doing it. Thanks.
Last, we have Kathleen Sullivan, 133 Pine.
Kathleen Sullivan, 133 Pine Street. Recently I was driving and I looked down at my hand and I noticed my scars. They come out, I notice them more this time of year because, well, your sleeves are rolled up and they're on my hand and my wrist, and they pop out more after the sun tans them and the skin around it doesn't get tan. Similar, they happened when I broke my arm, and so my hands both look like they function the same, but they don't. Similarly, emotional scars and things like that aren't always visible, but they're always there under the surface. They're kind of sometimes more like scabs, where when you pick at them, they seem to bleed again, even though they're healed over, or they seem to be healed over. And that's sometimes how the people in my neighborhood feel about what goes on with regards to just all the various different issues. One of the issues with regards to the parking garage or building you want to build on Addison Street is that it's not only going lot line to lot line, but even over the lot lines as designed. So we certainly want to know, where do you plan to send the stormwater? Where will it go? We need to know that before anything gets approved. The cost of that is about $11 to $12 million. That's the price that the city also quoted to do all the Park District projects with regards to storm remediation. And so those are the same numbers. So we certainly assume you're going to spend the money, but if you are, we certainly think you must have money set aside to take care of the stormwater. Additionally, best wishes to you, Public Works Director Hughes, on your new lot in life later in the week. So City Manager Grabowski, you will be replacing him. And this is one of the key leadership decisions that's had to be made since I've been coming to City Council, as far as I'm concerned. And so I really beg you, plead with you, to pick somebody with stormwater management experience, extensive stormwater management experience, someone who can help lead Elmhurst to fix the problems that are facing them now. Thank you.
That concludes public forum.
Thank you, Clerk Spencer. Is there anybody else in the audience at this time who did not have an opportunity prior to the meeting to sign up for public forum that wishes to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number agenda item number 5, announcements. Anyone on the dais at this time have an announcement? Alderman Dunn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back on a couple weekends ago, August 24th, some of you may have noticed about 200 plus folks running a little bit frenzied around town as part of an event called the Churchville Charge. That was the first inaugural event that this particular event was staged. And it was an outstanding event put on by the Churchville PTA, and just want to recognize them for their hard work in putting that together. That particular effort that was led by Julie Dealey, Suji Labine, and Margaret Rask raised over $10,000 for the Churchville PTA, which will be used for funding of different academic technology projects at the school. So I just wanted to recognize them for that great event. I did get to participate in it, and it was very well run, a lot of fun. 15 merchants in town supported the event, and we have a lot more apparently that are interested for next year. So just wanted to mention that great event, and I'm sure it will be back next year. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman York, did you have an announcement?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. The fall bike ride for elected officials and staff and families hosted by the Elmhurst Bike Task Force will be on Saturday, October 12th, starting at 2 p.m. from the old train depot at York and the Prairie Path. Many of you participated in the fall ride we had that was up north. This ride will highlight the south and southwest sections of Elmhurst. A reception will be held following the ride at the depot, and all elected officials in Elmhurst have been advised of it. DuPage County and local, state, and federal representatives have been invited as well. On another bike note, too, we also expect the results of our most recent bike-friendly community application to be announced by the end of September. This is our third application. We have received 2 honorable mentions. in the past 2 years, but are hoping that the recently adopted bike plan will get us over the hump and will actually be certified as a bike-friendly community on some level. Thank you.
Great. Any other announcements before we move on? No other announcements. On to agenda item number 6, our consent agenda. Is there any, at this time, is there any item on the consent agenda that anybody on the dais would like to see pulled for further discussion, or for any other reason for that matter? Alderman Gutenkopf.
Item 6.13.
Item 6.13. Anybody else want to pull anything off the consent agenda at this time? Alderman Kennedy, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Mr. Mayor, can you pull item 6.6? We'd like to bring that back to committee if we could, please.
6.6, okay. Consent agenda minus items 6.13 and 6.6. Is there any other item on the consent agenda that any alderman would like pulled for further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 6.6 and 6.13. A motion by Alderman Deuter, a second by Alderman Dunn. Clerk Spencer.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Tipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Conquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. That motion carries. On to 6.6.
I'm sorry, I forgot Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Thank you. Now it's 14 ayes. My apologies.
14 ayes, 0 nays. That motion carries. On to the first item of the agenda that was pulled, 6.6. Although I heard Alderman Kennedy mention it when he pulled it, we don't need a motion for this. Alderman Kennedy, you want to pull this back to committee?
Yes, sir. There's some things we want to look at in there to improve the readability of the document, so we just want to bring it back to committee, have city staff take a look at it, and probably bring it back to council in 2 weeks.
Okay. We allow that as a courtesy. 6.6 has been pulled back to committee. On to agenda item 6.13, a resolution. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask you to read the resolution.
A resolution authorizing the issuance of a notice of award for the 2013 Storm Sewer Extension Program, Project 13-26, in the city of Elmhurst.
Very good. I need a motion to approve the resolution as written, to put this on the floor. A motion by Alderman Healy, second by Alderman Bram. 6.13, this is Public Works. Alderman Kennedy, do you want to kick this off, or do you want to defer to the alderman who pulled it?
I will defer to Alderman Gutenkopf, please.
Alderman Gutenkopf, you pulled this item. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had extensive discussion about this 2 weeks ago. This is the rear yard drain program. I have serious concerns about moving forward with this without having also have a discussion about how it fits in with our overall planning for stormwater management. I never had my questions answered at the last council meeting. I still am curious to understand how many people are in line, what part of the city they are, how much water this includes or will add to the system, what our plans are for dealing with it. We also heard from Alderman 2 weeks ago that sometimes rear yard drains aren't the panacea we hope they are, in that when the water reaches the level of the drain in your backyard, you may actually get water pouring into your yard through the drain. So because of all of these sort of open questions, I personally believe that we should have put this particular project on hold until we fit it into our overall plan. So I am not in support of it, and that's why I pulled it.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, I'd ask Clerk Spencer to please call the roll.
Healy.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Pipskin.
Aye.
York. York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
No.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nays.
13 ayes, 1 nay. That motion carries. That's it for the consent agenda. On to committee reports, agenda item 7. 7.1 is a report out of finance about the tax increment financing policy, a tax increment financing policy. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask you to read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Services Committee that the City Council approve the attached tax increment financing incentive policy, signed by Alderman York, Chairman, Alderman Dunn, Vice Chairman, Alderman Hipskin, and Deuter.
Okay, I'd ask for a motion to approve the recommendation as read. Alderman York with a motion and a second by Alderman Dunn. Alderman York, would you like to kick this one off for us?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank the committee and city staff, as I feel this was a very collaborative process amongst the committee members with much give and take to craft a policy that I believe is very comprehensive, yet flexible so as not to dissuade anyone from applying. With this policy, the committee has the latitude, based on an application review, evaluate and entertain different proposals, but also retains the right to reject an application even in an instance when the application criteria may be met. In any case, the entire City Council will weigh in on any of these packages that we look at, as it always has in the past, and can clearly express their opinions with regard to the work that city staff and committee has done. The DuPage communities that we looked at with policies, there were 4 of them that we found in the area out of 26 communities. Just so everybody knows, we looked at Glen Ellen, we looked at Wheaton, we looked at Winfield, and we looked at St. Charles. St. Charles is parts in DuPage County and parts in King County, but they were kind of used as a basis for our work. And in regards to the comment that we had tonight in public comment, there actually is a provision in the policy. I think it's under number 5, number 4, that does allow us to evaluate any overages that might occur on return on investments and set up a cost share with developers. So I would ask for your support on this report and policy.
Very good. Thank you, Alderman York. Any other comments? Alderman Dunn.
Yes, just to follow up briefly on what Alderman York had stated, we looked at in the beginning, establishing a policy, and the fact that not many other towns had them gave us a little bit of pause. We were able to work well with organizations in the past to incentivize some projects, but we thought it was in the best interest to have some basic guideline for any organization that wants to take advantage of the possible TIF funding that might be out there. There's a lot of flexibility in it, and it hit on a lot of key areas that we felt would be important for any project, but there's also, it's fairly open-ended to allow us some leeway in how we evaluate these projects. So I think I'd also like to thank city staff for the hard work they put in. I think we had about 5 or 6 meetings to continually refine this particular document. and we got a very good final product as a result. Thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Braham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. I also want to thank the committee staff for working on this. Alderman Gutenkopf, myself, and former Alderman Pezza, referral was to move forward with some type of TIF incentive policy to kind of set some type of guidelines that all of us elected officials could at least utilize in future negotiations, especially since we just added an additional TIF. I do have some questions in regards to the document itself or the policy itself. Item number 2, TIF eligible development, under there, and I do appreciate it says, but is not limited to the following, but under there it includes housing development as one of those options. I'm curious on why the committee chose to include housing developments, because in a TIF, normally you're trying to redevelop more specifically from an economic development perspective, not so much from a housing development perspective. I do know that the city of Elmhurst has utilized TIF funds for housing in the past, but that also encompassed retail development with the housing development. So that's the first question on this document. The next section, which is item 3, TIF incentive criteria, I was able to speak with Alderman Deuter about this earlier this evening. The statement is 2 of the following criteria must be met in order for incentive requests to be considered. I'm not sure why it's 2. My understanding, speaking with Alderman Deuter, should have been 1. I'm not sure if that's correct since I haven't seen any revision or not. I know it's the next agenda item on here, which is very similar, being the sales tax incentive policy. That also states 2, and I think it lists 3 items under this category, so it would be 2 out of 3. So I'm unclear on what would be the rationale there. And then my last and final comment or / question would be, there seems to be some very positive language in here from the standpoint of, in this item specifically, must be met compared to shall be met, which does give us that leadway more so. So I'm curious on why in some sections it was more affirmative than in other sections where it was shall compared to must.
Alderman York, you want to tackle those 3 points by Alderman Braham?
I'll certainly take a swing at it. On point number 2, with regards to the housing, I think that was in there as it just directly relates to mixed-use projects, but it could also be considered for housing. We didn't want to leave anything out, but I think it's mainly to be kind of referred to with regards to, as you brought up, the mixed-use developments. And then the second question was on the criteria, and we did have some discussion today amongst Finance Director Marilyn, and Alderman Deuter and I had some conversations going, and I think we finally came to the conclusion that that was what we talked about in committee, and we felt that the criteria that were referred to were broad enough that we could certainly find 2 of those criteria in almost every application, and the fact that if there's an attractive project or a project that's worth consideration by the city, that if it hit on 1 but was close on 2 and it made sense, that we have the latitude to bring it before the committee and discuss it. So I think that, to my recollection, is probably why we stuck with the 2. I think it did get pared down during the discussions at some point in time, but I don't exactly recall, because as Alderman Dunn indicated, this process took, on calendar time, probably the better part of 3 months. So, and then what was the final question again, Alderman Braham?
Shall versus must.
Oh, must is very musty, whereas shall is more, let's talk about it, and it's not as definitive, I guess.
Yeah, I understand the definition of the two words.
Okay.
I'm more curious from the standpoint of why in some areas it was so affirmative, so definitive, and in other areas it was not. Like this area, it must meet these two, now that you clarified, these two criteria. And earlier, I believe in the document, or somewhere in the document, it was more loose, being shall.
It was more loose in the kind of the intro areas. I think we kind of kept it a little bit looser there, and then kind of got into the more of the must in the criteria area.
Alderman Levin.
Well, Alderman Plumsky and I were having our own discussion here because we believe that shall and must mean the same thing as opposed to may. So if you're trying to differentiate that one is different than the other, maybe that's something that needs to be revisited, or is it intended to mean that they're both requirements?
Yes.
All right.
Thanks. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Alderman Gutenkopf.
Perhaps this is just a clarification, and perhaps Alderman York, you didn't really mean this, but I understood you to say that these criteria would be broad enough that you could find two in every application, and I'm sure you didn't really mean that every application is worthy and that you would try to find at least two of these requirements in everybody that applied, did you?
No, I meant worthy applications.
Thank you.
Alderman Deuter.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And just to clarify, any, on this TIF incentive criteria, and two of the following, or is it more or less than that? In the TIF policy, there are 7 in this list, and I think the committee had no question about this list, that any worthy project would be able to meet 2 on this criteria. When we get to the sales tax incentive, which is next, it's a much shorter list, and so that, I think, calls into question a little bit more, but I think there was no question at the committee level on worthy projects being able to meet 2 of those criteria.
Any additional comments? Alderman Dunn.
I think what we wanted to accomplish with this document was to have an initial conversation with a interested party, refer them to the document, or have them just pull it out themselves, review it, and really feel positive and very interested in further pursuing some type of partnership with the city. We had a clause in there initially where we were asking the applicants to pay some large fee, and we felt that that was maybe overly burdensome and unnecessary, and not with the intent of the policy. So really want to get qualified applicants that the city wants to do business with, and also to make sure we don't lose any quality applicants on the way because we have too burdensome or stringent of a policy. Thanks.
Any other comments?
And just as a quick
Alderman
follow-up to
York.
Alderman Dunn, this policy will lead to an actual application form. The city staff will work on an application form that'll then be part of this policy, so that when we do get somebody who's interested in asking about incentive availability, they'll have to go through and get all this information on paper for the committee to review.
Very good. Any other comments? Seeing none, I think the council shall vote. Clerk Spencer.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Pipskin.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Onquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
No.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nays.
13 aye, 1 nay. That motion carries. On to agenda item 7.2, a very similar sales tax incentive policy. I would ask Clerk Spencer to please read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council approve the attached sales tax incentive policy, signed by Alderman York, Chairman, Alderman Dunn, Vice Chairman, and Alderman Hipskin and Deuter.
Very good. I would ask for a motion to approve the recommendation. Alderman York with a motion to approve the recommendation as read, and Alderman Dunn with a second. Alderman York, your opportunity to present this to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Out of the referral by Alderman Gutenkopf, Bram, and Pezza was on the TIF incentive. And when we got this into committee, some of the other communities had combination TIF and sales tax incentive programs. And so the sales tax incentive policy that you're seeing tonight was born out of an agreement amongst the committee and city staff that there were enough differences between a TIF incentive and a sales tax incentive to warrant this separate policy. I think all my other comments that I made on the TIF policy apply to this one as well. It was collaborative. There was a lot of hard work put in at the committee level and at the staff level, and it's here as a guideline. We can use it, going back to Alderman Bram's point on the 2 out of the 3 criteria. I did look at it today, and we discussed it amongst ourselves, and I still feel pretty good about being able to make that. So I would ask for everyone's support on this policy as well. Thank you.
Any comments? Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just comment similarly in regards to this policy as the TIF incentive policy. I think it's very well written, and I'm happy to see both of these policies moving forward. I do have a few questions, and I'm looking at my notes here on my phone. The first one, Alderman York, I think you already touched on, being, again, item number 2. In this case, the criteria, sales tax incentive criteria. 2 out of 3 is a little bit concerning to me. I don't think this is an all-inclusive list. It could be, but I'm not sure if it is, but that I'll let move forward. That was a good explanation, satisfactory at least to myself. Under general policies for use of sales tax assistance, I guess the one question would be, in this instance, was it talked about in committee about having something in there of having the potential business who applies and possibly receives this stay in the city of Elmhurst for X number of years after the sales tax incentive has already expired? I'd hate to see, and not saying that any business would do this because I don't think fiscally it would be very responsible of them to do, but to have a 10-year sales tax incentive and then move to another town after that expires, I would again think that wouldn't be cost beneficial to the business, but was that discussed and what was the outcome? Because I don't recall seeing it in this policy. And then the only other question would be under the application process and procedure section. It says of a 5% interest in the business. Item number 4, why 5% compared to any other percentage?
Alderman York.
Thank you. I don't recall, there's obviously a clawback provision in the agreement, and I don't recall the discussion, if any, about what happens after the agreement is over. I do know that we had Don's firm, Storino, look over these documents, and I think it might, just speculating, you can add any time if you want, but I think it might be really burdensome for a business that you give sales tax assistance to, and in a lot of cases here in Elmhurst, not in a lot, but there's a few cases here in town where people simply outgrow their facility and they have to move elsewhere, and so they could kind of, become a victim of their own success, if you will, and I think that you wouldn't want to give up the 10 years of prosperity for not even having had that opportunity in the first place. So if anybody else in the committee wants to chime in on it, I don't recall discussing that specifically, but I do know that we also had Storino's office look at it, and they didn't make any comments about that was something that was in a lot of agreements, and we certainly didn't see it in the agreements we looked at either. So,
any additional comments?
There was another question too.
The other question was under the application process and procedure section, item number 4 said 5% interest. Why 5% compared to
Alderman York?
just any interest?
I may have to defer to Finance Director Gaston. I don't recall if that's.
I can say something.
What's that?
It was the 4 policies that we looked at. It was,
There you go.
It was consistent with what was already out there in the marketplace.
City Attorney Storino, you want to add to this?
If you look at other disclosures, either ethics disclosures, liquor license disclosures, you'll see that 5% everywhere. In all those, that doesn't give you a great answer about why it's not 1%, but it is in all, what corporate entity might own more than 5%. I think the theory is that they own less than 5%, it's such a de minimis interest, it's really not worth the disclosure, I guess.
Okay, any additional comments? Alderman Dunn.
Just a follow-up to some of the city's protection in these policies. The TIF is generally structured as more of an upfront funding project, and so the clawback clause is very important in that to be able to recoup some of our investment should the deal not pan out, along with the also if the deal goes very well and they're reaping a lot of benefit from it. There is a cost share. For the sales tax incentive, it's structured more of a pay-as-you-go, and there is a 10-year, in the policy, there's a 10-year time limit that we spell out on there, but that doesn't mean we have to go to 10 years on anything, on any type of agreement that we have. So there is some protection there, and there's also in the sales tax incentive, there is a clawback term in there so that we can recoup some of our investment should there be a problem. That's it.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, I ask Clerk Spencer.
York.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Onquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
No.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nays.
13 ayes, 1 nay. That motion carries. The report's approved. On to agenda item number 8, reports and recommendations of appointed elected officials. 8.1, Mayor Morley. 2 quick things to report. One's more of a thank you. I think most people are aware, but Mike Hughes, our Director of Public Works, has submitted his resignation. He's going on to other things, and we wish him the best, but certainly I personally, and I know many feel the same way, want to thank Director Hughes for his 28 years of hard work. You have certainly left your imprint on the city, and you'll be missed. Certainly don't be a stranger. And then the other thing to report is, and I mentioned this kind of as an ongoing report, I continue to be in contact and set up meetings with municipal, state, and federal elected officials to ask for their assistance and their dollars for our flood mitigation challenges. That having been said, City Manager and I have a meeting set up this week with Representative Conroy, one of Elmhurst representatives, and is that Thursday? Thursday of this week. And that's it for my report. City Manager Grabowski.
Thank you. I just want to remind everyone that next Monday and Tuesday evenings, we'll have presentations on the Han Street proposals.
Any additional reports before we move on? Very good. Ordinances. Agenda item number 9. Ordinance, agenda item 9.1. Patty, if you could read the ordinance MCO-10-2013, please.
An ordinance to amend Article 5 entitled Driving, Overtaking, and Passing, and Article 6 entitled Special Stops of Chapter 44 entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic of the Municipal Code of the City of Elmhurst, Illinois, replacing yield signs with stop signs at northbound and southbound Chandler Avenue approaches to Adelia Street, and installing stop signs at the eastbound and westbound Adelia Street approaches to Chandler Avenue.
Thank you, Clerk Spencer. I'd ask for a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Alderman Wagner with a motion. I need a second. Alderman Leader. Alderman Wagner.
Nothing more to add from 2 weeks ago. I think it was pretty clear. I think it was a spirited debate, and I really have nothing more to add.
Any additional comments as it relates to this ordinance regarding the stop signs? Alderman Braham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Alderman Wagner already stated, we had a spirited debate 2 weeks ago, so I won't dive into the nitty-gritty details on how this intersection doesn't come close to warranting a four-way stop, according to the MUTCD, which we adopted. So I'll just throw this in the rectangular filing bin there. But what I did want to speak about is I had a day off today, and I did walk again the neighborhood. I attempted to speak to specifically individuals who are on the actual petition, which does speak about speeding concerns, which, as we all know, don't apply for traffic control devices, most of which were not home. Out of the 10 homes listed, I think I spoke with one or two. Out of those one or two that were listed on the petition, they seemed a little bit don't care in regards to if a four-way stop goes at this intersection or not. Some individuals who are not on this petition, I asked if they were even aware of a traffic control device change at this intersection, and they said, yeah, they heard about a petition going around, but they knew nothing else past that. And when I followed up from a standpoint of, did you know it is being proposed for a four-way stop, they commented, no, not at all. Holy cow, what does that mean to us? What I want to highlight, though, today, and the last item I want to talk about is this intersection, the homes on this intersection. I did speak, last time we talked about it, to 2 of the 4 residents literally on this intersection, the homes on this intersection. And they were against a four-way stop. They were against even changing it to a two-way stop. Today, and everyone at the dais, I did provide copies of the letters that they provided me. Today, they provided me letters since they could not be here. And one of the other homes, a third home, also provided a quick note. And I just want to read these for the record. The first being, and this is verbatim, to Kevin York, as a constituent of your district and living at 270 Chandler Avenue, corner of Chandler and Adelia, we do not feel there is a justification for a four-way stop at our intersection. A yield, as exists, is adequate. Ned and Jill Johnston, 270 Chandler. The next one, dear sirs, it has come to our attention that a petition has been circulated requesting stop signs at the corner of Adelia and Chandler Streets. We have lived at 243 Adelia Street on the northeast corner of this intersection for the past 29 years. Shortly after we moved into our home, 2 yield signs were placed on Chandler Street at this intersection. We raised 3 young children at this home and did not feel that there was any regular speeding or congestion on either street such that more than the yield signs were necessary. We respectfully disagree with this proposal and feel it will be more of a cause for interruption of regular traffic than an improvement. Sincerely, Ava, and I'm going to probably not pronounce their last name right, Yelton and Robert Yelton. The third, again, at the actual intersection, to whom it may concern, Dorothy and I lived at the intersection of Adelia and Chandler for 46 years. Excess speed has not seemed to be a problem at that corner. Neither of us can recall any significant accidents at that intersection during that period. The yield signs has apparently been doing its job. We do not think it is necessary or wise to change that signage at this time. Junie Sinson and Dorothy Sinson. The last statement I have to say, the only reason why I don't have a fourth letter before you is because that home's vacant. So we talk about the residents wanting this. The people that are most impacted who live on this corner do not want it, don't feel like it's needed, and don't want it. Some of the residents that I did speak to at length, they said, which is some of the same comments I've heard here on the dais, well, what will it hurt? But after actually speaking to them and explaining to them about our guidelines, the MUTCD, about the criteria, about the fact that stop signs or any control device is not meant to control speeding, they actually said, oh, it sounds like you're doing the right thing, it should not go up. I will just mention in closing that this is a slippery slope. We continue to dole out stop signs at intersections that do not warrant them, instead of actually looking at factual data. There's no speeding issue, even if there was, that's more of an enforcement issue compared to control device implementation. The residents on the corner that are mostly impacted don't feel it's needed, and they've lived there between 20 and 40-something odd years. If anybody knows, I would think it would be them. So I ask my colleagues to reconsider, some of you, on moving forward with a four-way stop at this intersection. I quoted before in '86, the yield signs really weren't warranted according to city staff's assessment. Now, we're going to a four-way stop, which doesn't come close to the MUTCD guidelines. Thank you for your indulgence.
Any additional comments at this time? Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I realized after our discussion last week that it was clear that perhaps I'd had an opportunity to read some information that might not have been available to everyone on the City Council. I've been on City Council for 6 years, and that's given me the opportunity to receive a lot of memos from city staff. So I dug something out of my files, and I had it scanned and distributed to all of you in the email that you received on Thursday. And I certainly hope that you had an opportunity to read your packet extras, because it included a scan of a pamphlet that the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference circulates called The Truth About Speeding in Residential Areas, that delineates very clearly why stop signs don't solve those problems. And I also had included a memo that I had received in 2011, and copies were distributed to the council, but it hasn't been distributed since then, and there are many of you that are new on the council since that time. But the memo originally dates to 1993, and it's the report on stop, yield, and speed studies that gives the city staff and the city council the guidelines that we need, the review procedure that we're supposed to go through. So I thought it was probably a worthwhile opportunity to share that with everyone so that we can all be on the same page about what criteria we have adopted and what our decision-making process should be. And I just wanted to point that out and remind you all that these are really serious decisions, and that we have adopted policies for making those decisions, and we do this for a reason. It's to provide consistency, both for our decision-making process and so that residents understand why we do what we do. I hope you had a chance to read them. I hope they helped strengthen your understanding of why something that seems somewhat innocuous is really a serious thing, and why these policies exist. Thank you.
Very good. Any other comments? Clerk Spencer, I would ask you to call for the vote.
Wagner.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Polumsky.
No.
Graham.
No.
Hipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
No.
Healy.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
No.
Gutenkopf.
No.
Reuter.
No.
Dunn,
No.
and that's everybody. Okay. It looks 7 ayes and 8 nays. Did I leave someone out?
7-7.
Oh,
Recount.
wait,
Mark.
I'm hearing a lot of noise and I'm not. Mark, he was, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm sorry. I tell you, I was on vacation last week and it shows. Okay, 7 ayes and 7 nays. Isn't that right?
It is right, Patty. Clerk Spencer.
Why is it so funny?
7 ayes,
Okay.
it's 7 ayes
Laughing man.
and 7 nays. I'm pretty sure I have to vote, but I'm not sure what Attorney Storino's looking up.
No, I'm just, what I told you is correct. The code indicates that in these instances, the mayor shall vote.
Very good. I vote, and I vote no. I do not support the ordinance. I support the city staff initial recommendations. Thank you. We would ask that you keep your applause to yourself during these times. We're just trying to get through these meetings. 9.1, that ordinance does not carry. Other business. Agenda item number 10. Is there any other business at this time? Alderman Hipskin.
Yes, could we ask Mike Hughes to stand up? Come on up and take a picture for the papers. 28 years is a great time, and, you know, we certainly benefited from you. So come on up.
Good luck. Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Congratulations.
Nice job, brother. Congrats.
Kennedy?
Mike.
Good luck, Mike.
Very good. Thank you, Alderman Hipskin. Any other business at this time? Seeing none, I ask for a motion to adjourn. Alderman Dunn with a motion, Alderman York with a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're going to take a 5-minute break. We have a committee of the whole afterwards, starting approximately 8:30 or immediately following City Council meeting. 5 minutes. Thank you.